Well, hi.
Kick us off.
Yeah, I'm DJ.
David.
This is the Hairy Knuckle Podcast.
What are we on, episode 4?
This is 4.
I
think
holy shit.
we have actually in the top 20% of all YouTube channels now.
And we still have the one guy in India, I think, that might have viewed us.
I hope so.
Yeah.
We
gotta expand.
Say the top 20 of all podcast shows, but
yeah,
most people that most podcasts are under 3 episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
Going on 4, going strong.
Yeah.
We don't plan on stopping.
No, that's good.
We're just gonna keep riding this train.
Keep putting out
terrible content.
Terrible content.
Terrible. Just horrendous.
2 guys in the living room.
Yeah. Hanging out, drinking coffee.
Yeah. This should actually be liquor.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You want to have that kind of podcast, huh?
Start sharing feelings.
Oh no. Feelings are going to be kept inward.
We want the feels before the reels.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do people want to see feelings?
I don't know.
I think that's what excites people when they watch podcasts. They want to see arguments. They want to see people fight. They want to see people cry. They want to see people hurt. It's very strange that as humans, that's what we want.
It's like we become, the daytime soap opera type thing.
Yeah, it is. It's the Colosseum, right? The Romans wanted to be entertained.
Yeah.
You had jugglers and gladiators, and you had all of this kind of entertainment. People just want to be entertained. And the biggest entertainment is people's pain and sadness and happiness and sorrow and things like that.
Did I tell you how many people died in the Colosseum when it first opened, with like the first 3 months or first month?
Probably a lot.
So I was just there in January.
Yeah.
And apparently within the first month of opening, over 1,000 animals and people were murdered in the Colosseum.
For show.
Yeah. Just for entertainment.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That is nuts, right?
That is. Humans we're strange animals.
Well,
we're very strange.
Yeah, no, for sure we are.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I don't really want to watch blood sport. I mean, I've gone hunting. I enjoy hunting.
Yeah.
I enjoy firearms.
Right. I enjoy men that have worked hard on something like fighting, like UFC, right?
Oh yeah, I could get
like that. Watching mixed martial arts, watching men that train every day and they're disciplined, and watching the best of the world compete with one another. That's interesting to me. That's great. That's incredible.
That's putting you've done so much preparation in it before a match like that.
Yeah.
And you're seeing the best of two different individuals,
right,
combating against each other. That's really fascinating.
It is fascinating. Yeah. No, I think it is.
It's like going to a debate, 2 very intelligent people going to war against each other. You know, they're not killing each other, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People like competition.
Right. Yeah. And bringing the conversation a little bit towards like talking about mixed martial arts. Typically, we want to see the best of the best, right? We don't want to see the B class or the B team, the C team, D team fighters. We want to see the best of the world compete with one another.
Right.
And there's a UFC fighter. His name is Sean Strickland. He was the champ for a while. He recently lost the belt. And he talked about people don't want to see women fight. Well, why don't you want to see women fight? And he's very masculine, slightly chauvinist, I'd say. And I think he'd agree with me. But he said, why would you want to watch women fight? Because these are not the best in the world. Like typically, the majority of these men could whoop any of these women's asses. So why do I want to see these women fight? And it's an interesting take, but I don't think he's right.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I think...
Would you watch a woman fight?
Yeah, I do. And I think there are a lot of great UFC fighters that are women. It's entertainment, right? But the women's entertainment is different. We understand that they're not, that they're different than men. When the argument becomes that women are the same as men, right, and they can compete in men's sports with men, then that becomes a ridiculous argument. But watching women compete, like the basketball game, the college basketball game, Iowa versus LSU, right? This was a heated matchup. Iowa, they have that star player, I forget her name, who was actually incredible. I think she scored 35, 40 points that game and beat the LSU team.
That's incredible.
And she's incredible, great shooter. But that kind of stuff, I think it's entertaining. It's women's sports. But at the same time, do I believe that they can compete with men? No.
Not physically.
No, not physically.
Yeah.
And those sorts of competitive sports like mixed martial arts or basketball or football, I don't think that women and men are the same. They're different, and they're different. That their
In good
abilities,
ways.
good ways.
Yeah.
It's not bringing one or the other down
No.
in any regard. I just think we need to accept that there are differences.
I mean, that's why I have a problem with like transgender men joining the female swim team.
It's so
that's
unfair.
That's so unfair to the women.
Well, it's unfair to the women. It's not like, it's not a philosophical debate. What we start talking about,
physically,
gender. Yeah,
a man has
but it's unfair.
Much more upper body strength.
Yes.
Is longer, has longer arms. I mean, it's just like there's no competition there.
Yeah, there isn't a competition there.
I enjoy watching the local pro female team in soccer.
Yeah.
The Monarchs is what they were.
Yeah.
I think they moved recently, actually.
Oh, did they?
I would take the boys there quite a few times, and they're incredible to watch.
Right.
Really exciting. Holy shit.
Women's sport, it's a different thing. And I think we need to look at it like that. It's a different kind of entertainment.
I mean, kind of going back onto competition. I mean, we could kind of like loop that into also dating. There is a competition when you're dating. You know what I mean? You're competing. Other men are competing for the same woman or whatever, and vice versa. Multiple women are competing for the same guy.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah.
That's the
truth. I mean, you're putting your best foot forward.
That's the truth. Yeah.
And hopefully you're not just you're actually done the work.
Yeah.
Emotionally, physically, spiritually, to become the best version of yourself. Right?
That work, or the appearance of having done that work, is more important than ever. Or because everybody's life is so transparent, right? With social media.
Yeah.
You on Facebook, people know what you look like. You showcase your lifestyle, your vacations that you go to, the significant other that you're with. All this stuff is visible by hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of people.
Yeah, depending on who you are. Yeah,
right. So as a man, when you're dating, it's easy for a woman to look at your Instagram, your Facebook, and determine whether you're the caliber of man that she wants to date or not. And so men, more so than other, need to step up their game in all of those different aspects, right?
Yeah.
Like fitness, whether you look good or not, whether you have friends, whether you have the capability of going to vacation, whether, all of that stuff. Like that's so transparent nowadays, where before it probably wasn't.
Oh, and it doesn't, I mean, I think in general, generally speaking, men have and I could be guilty of this, have not done a great job of taking care of themselves, and they've kind of fallen off the bandwagon. Do you know what I mean? And so they're like, you compare the pool of men versus women. I think women in general do take care of themselves better than men do in general.
Right.
Right. Men are kind of like become sloppy and
kind
of doughy or whatever. You know what I mean?
For the most part, but I think again, that narrative that we keep talking about, that narrative that's perpetuated doesn't teach men that these are the things that women want, right? No. So how are they supposed to ever know? That what women are being told is you don't actually need those type of men. You can achieve that stuff yourself, right? You can take care of yourself. You don't need a man to lead. You don't need a man to provide for you. You can get those things yourself. And so men on the other end, they're being fed the same narrative.
Well, I generally think it's great that women can do that for themselves.
No, it's great. Yeah.
I mean, like even in the 70s, a woman couldn't even own her own fucking checking account. She had to have a father or a man do that for her. And that is just crazy to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's just that narrative is very confusing for both genders, I think. It's a narrative that doesn't quite fit into our instinctual impulses. And so it takes some adjusting. And I think there's some confusion and there are people that are left behind as a result of it, where they're kind of lost in what to do with regard to dating, with regard to, having a relationship with the opposite sex and maintaining it. How do you maintain that relationship? What are you supposed to do as a man, right? Do you just cater to a woman's every beck and call, right? Is that what you do as a man? Or, what we're being told, no, actually as a man, you don't do that. You
need to have your own standards as a man, just as a woman should have her own standards.
Right. And as a woman,
and enforce those.
Yeah. As a woman, is it seen as weakness to take care of a man,
No,
to cook for him,
I don't think so.
to take care of him. Well, I mean, that's what the narrative is feeding them, and it's not everybody's fault, because that's what we're being told, right?
Right.
And so the fact that people believe these things, I don't think that there should be aggression shown towards those type of people. I think they're simply reacting to what they're being told, and for the most part, people form their opinions based on the overarching narrative that society gives them.
Yeah, I think a lot of our problems in modern society are probably due to the false narrative that's being delivered via social media.
Yeah.
And
but it's our life now, right? That's it.
Oh, it is,
that's
right?
Part of our life.
I mean, like
whether we like it or not,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think my goal with the Hairy Knuckles be kind of like the balanced approach to what modern dating, modern life, what a modern man should be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of self-irony in myself. You know what I mean? Like I don't pretend to have the answers.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, we're on this journey together, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to navigate this whole situation, and everybody's a little bit lost. The red pill crowd, I think we discussed this before. They did their part, right? They did their part.
They did.
In combating a very toxic, aggressive form of feminism with a very aggressive form of what they call masculinity, right?
Yeah.
So it's fighting fire with fire. But that battle, I think, is sort of waning. And there's a new battle that's being fought. Is okay. So we've seen those two perspectives. What's the middle ground to where we can all come together and agree on what the narrative should be? Like how's everybody happiest? What are our instinctual impulses? What does evolutionary psychology say?
Right.
What do all of these different threads?
I mean, what feels good to you? Like,
yeah.
What are you comfortable with?
Right. We had the experiment. A lot of women have been granted that freedom. They've worked in the workplace. They haven't had kids. What is the result of that? If they're better off, then maybe that's the narrative we should be perpetuating. But if they're not, and there's unhappiness, they live lives that are unfulfilled, then maybe we should look at it again. And then there are men that are ruining that narrative too, right?
Right.
Take advantage of these women, obviously. So it's like, which direction do we go, guys?
I'd like to know your opinion out there.
Yeah,
you have one.
It's such a loaded topic. People get hurt. For example, like I was on Twitter, and Twitter was on fire yesterday, and there was this woman in her mid-30s, and she's a beautiful woman, right? Mm-hmm. Beautiful woman, and she said something along the lines of that she feels more attractive now than she ever did in her 20s. And she was responding to Charlie Kirk. He had done a podcast or a speech, and he said something about how women should invest their time in their 20s in securing, a man that basically, I hate saying this word, but like I keep wanting to say highest value man, but I'm saying a man that can fulfill their life to the fullest possible potential, right? Mm-hmm. That type of man. They can secure that type of man in their 20s, but they have a harder time securing that type of man in their 30s. Well, because they're at their peak in their 20s, where she's saying, "You look at me now," and she posted a picture of herself. I'm in my peak in my 30s. And then this is a dangerous topic to sort of tread on, because one, the narrative says no, like you can have kids up until you're in your 40s. Don't worry about what these men want as far as your fertility and things like that. That's not a concern. That narrative is being fed, and the fact that the women are in their 30s can't turn back the hands of time. They've already made that decision. Right. So there's going to be a lot of there's going to be some emotion in that, because they've already made that decision. And it's hard to tell somebody that's already made a decision and is living their life that way that, hey, you actually, if you would have lived your life a different way, you might have seen better results. That's a very difficult pill to swallow.
Well, 2 days ago, I was looking up a statistic, and apparently roughly a little over 70% of all women in the U.S. Are on antidepressants, and for whatever reason. There's probably a myriad of reasons.
Men too. It's not only women.
Yeah, but I don't think the numbers were. I looked at the men's, and the men's weren't at the same level as the women's were. And I wonder, what percentage of that number, that 17%, is based off of the false narrative, or they've been fed, or maybe it's mothers that are at home. They didn't dive into that granularity, but makes you wonder, if that maybe it is those 40-year-old women that never got married and never had children, and realizing that their lives, their innate evolutionary desire to have children was never met, which is terribly sad. Right.
A lot of those women say they're happy though. And I wonder, I'm not here. I don't think we're here to say that you're lying or you're not happy. No. I don't think any man can say that. They're feeling what they're feeling. But the one thing I would say is happiness is long-term, right?
Yeah. Joy
is shorter term, right?
Well, I think, you could look at it either way. But
I'd say joy is more short-term. So if you're having these dopamine hits where you're going on vacation, you don't have to worry about kids, you get to travel the world, you have your free time, you get to watch Netflix until midnight, you get to go to the gym when you want to, you get to eat where you want to, you get to choose your friends. You don't have these anchors holding you down that a typical family type lifestyle would. Those like trips, those good nights out, those are good dopamine hits, right? That's joy. But what is the long-term effect of all of those trips, all of those nights going out, having your freedom? What is the long-term result of that? Does it result in, one, a fulfilling life, and two, happiness? That's the question we need to ask.
I enjoy going out, and we'll go out tonight, and I'll enjoy that. When I get home, I see my three sons, and I'm like, and
that's happiness.
That brings me like overwhelming happiness. They may be a pain in the ass on occasion. I'm glad I do have children.
That's something that until recently I didn't want. Yeah. And it's something that I actually want now.
I think you'd be a great dad. I've seen you with your nephews, and you're like, you're on their shit, and but you're playful with them, and that's good, and that they resonate with you.
It's a weird thing that it's something suddenly that I've wanted, and it's strange because it's something that was a pain point in my last relationship where I didn't want it, right? And that created problems. But
I think that has, if I may, it had more to do with the individual, that relationship, than your
not being a good match and compatibility, things like that.
Even though she's great, but I don't think you wanted to have children with her, per se.
It could have been, right? It could have been a couple of things, but not being compatible with somebody is a huge thing. And I'm very calculating in, I think even subconsciously, right? Maybe I didn't. You're right. Maybe I didn't want to have kids with her, even though she's a good person. I would never speak badly about her. It's just it's the compatibility wise. But it's weird that I just want that now. And when you want something is when you don't get it. When you sort of struggle getting that thing, it's when you don't want it. You suddenly start getting those things, which is strange. It's a strange way that the universe works.
Yeah, and I didn't really, I know I made the decision to have children, but I didn't like a moron stumbling into get married and have kids. But I also have a Mormon background, so I'm like,
that's interesting. Yeah,
which is interesting in itself. So it's like culturally, you're kind of like, it's expected of you to get married.
Yeah, which is a good thing. I don't think that's bad.
I don't think I believe in the institution of marriage. I think it is honestly the best way to raise children, and that's shouldn't be the main reason you're getting married. It's because you want to share your life and mold your life into that other person's life, and then grow together. Yeah. And I heard an interesting quote. I can't remember who said it, but it was about marriage. It's like, you should have like 3 or 4, or maybe it was 5 or 6 relationships, and if you're lucky, it's with the same person. Mm-hmm. Different, because that's when you're not a stagnant individual. Like you as a couple should be both growing. You should be both developing yourself. You should be, and you form and you mold into each other, and you become this different entity at the end of your lives.
Mhm.
You know, I think that personally find that quite beautiful.
Yeah,
you know?
no, it is. Yeah, I think marriage is great. It's just that there's a lot of, you need to be careful in who you're marrying.
Yeah, for sure.
Like marriages ending in divorce is an ugly thing.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we've had friends that have gone through it, and it's terrifying. It's a very, very, very stressful experience, and if there's children involved, it's even worse, right?
Yeah.
For all parties, to be with somebody for a decade or two, and have that all end, that's terrifying.
Well, I think a lot of, I mean, you hear the people, well, we just grew apart. Well, I think it's when somebody stopped growing and the other person did grow. They kept on growing. And that's when the relationship,
Yeah.
you know, you decouple because somebody was staying stagnant. And let's say it's the guy who just happy just doing his 9 to 5, coming back, having a beer every night and not like doing anything.
Well, I mean, that's if the woman wants it, right? I think.
Well, and the woman wants to move. You know, the relationship wants
So
to
she
do
wants
something.
something else.
She wants to grow, and
Okay.
he's unwilling to grow, right?
Well, and that's a hard conversation to have with the man, right? The woman, the wife is going to have a hard time explaining that to the man. So I think what you're trying to say is it's mostly uncommunicated expectations.
Yeah.
One party or both have a certain expectation of the other, right? And then, but they're not communicating it, and so you're living this life every day, week by week, month by month, and you're growing more resentful.
Future resentments are the result of uncommunicated expectations.
Yeah, and I totally believe that.
Yeah,
because I see it in my relationships that I've had. Come to find out, when it's too late and you have that talk on why things ended, it's things that if they were communicated clearly, you know, either of us could have made a change. But a lot of the times it's too late. You know, when it drags on for too long, it's really too late, and that's why
it's hard to
fail.
It's hard to fix.
Yeah,
you know, like after so much damage has occurred in a relationship, where do you go?
Yeah,
you know, I mean, I've told you this. Like looking back at my marriage, there are huge portions of my marriage I don't even remember.
Yeah,
and it turns out, I just found out this recently, it was because I was suffering from dissociation. So I've like totally blocked out periods of my marriage, and I'll look back at the actual images in the scrapbook and I'll go, when was this?
Mm-hmm.
But I can remember like 25, 30 years ago, me going out with my buddies and we're just having a conversation, or just even around their dinner table playing cards. I remember the conversation and what happened at that moment, you know?
Yeah. So you put it in the back of your head,
it's just like, it's blocked.
Subconscious.
My mind would be like focused on anything but the moment.
And I think that's how trauma is processed, in any kind of trauma.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Even in
I mean, that's the way it was explained to me, but here I am like,
because I've heard that when you're speaking to a therapist in situations of trauma, let's say situations where somebody's forced themselves on another person, right?
Oh yeah.
They actually tell that person, the victim, to put themselves in that situation again, so they can process it. To make it more real, because they've put it in their subconscious so far in the subconscious that it's causing them pain in other areas of their life. You need to bring it to the forefront, and to do that, you need to put that person in that situation again and kind of walk them through, you know, that trauma of being in that situation. And it sounds like a very painful process, but you know, that's where healing comes in.
Yeah.
So I think that most trauma, I think, is that way.
I mean, I hate this term, the healing journey or whatever it's called.
But it really is, right?
Yeah, well, it is what it is. I mean, I have been seeing a therapist about it, and I kind of hate admitting that, but it is what it is.
Right.
You knew about it. I mean,
yeah,
but
that's fine.
I've been seeing a therapist for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Only 2 months ago, I realized this dissociation. You know what I mean? And that's what it was like diagnosed as. And so I don't know how much longer I will be going to therapy. And I don't necessarily enjoy the process, but I definitely am doing the work, you know, because I do want to not experience dissociation.
And this is an effort to save your marriage.
Yeah.
That's when you got to work on it, right?
Yep.
You know, you're doing the work and actively doing the work, both of you, you know, making the decision that you guys want this to work. You have 3 sons. That's a conscious decision both you have to make. And I think if both parties are on board, I think it can be effective, right? Therapy can be effective.
Yeah. I mean, it's also like to save the relationship, improve the relationship, or put it on a good footing that whatever it may be in the future, it's something that works for both of us, not just me. Do you know what I mean? And works for the boys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, for me, the boys are more important than my own happiness, making sure that they're well-rounded. And so I think that's my kind of like my priority is that.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, relationships can be great. They could also be shitty.
Yeah.
They could be both,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I don't know, it just depends on whether both people are actually working on it.
Yeah. Constant
and
struggle.
Growing.
Yeah.
And maybe you have 5 solid relationships in your life with the same person.
Right. Yeah. It's a struggle. Both people have to be prepared for that struggle and ready to go to battle every single day. What else is on your mind?
Powerball? Oh. No.
Which we advise against.
Yeah, we don't recommend gambling. But it's at 1.2 billion.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
You're excited for that?
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Not time will tell, but I'm excited. Like I told you, do you want to talk about it here?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a friend that lives up in Idaho or doesn't live up in Idaho. His family lives up in Idaho, and he was going up there this weekend, and he brought up the fact that Powerball was at 1.2 billion. I'm like, why don't we just create a pool and see if we could get a few people to put in $90 each and see what we could do with that. And I'm more excited about the process. I think it was more of a great social experiment for us. I'm expecting that we lose everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was 4 of us that put in, so we bought 120 tickets. And I think it's great that 4 people could do that. You know, it was like, yeah, cool.
You're throwing away your money for the most part, and I think we know that, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think you talked about an interesting story with FedEx. He did something.
FedEx is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had 5,000 left. They needed to pay their bill of $24K, and he went and gambled it. Was it Vegas?
Yeah, he went to Vegas.
Yeah, he went and gambled it, and he won that money. He was able to pay the bills for the next week.
Yep. And the fuel bill.
And FedEx continued to operate. So,
and now it's huge.
Most entrepreneurs, we would never give that advice to go gamble what you have left, but
that's a ballsy fucking move.
It is, yeah. But you do need to take risks, right?
I'm not suggesting you go put your house on them, or you leverage your house and go put it all on red 7 or whatever the number is,
right?
On roulette and hope you're going to win. That's fucking dumb.
Yeah. But I think a lot of successful businesses come to that juncture where they think that failing is imminent, right? And then what they do in that period where they have to make really hard decisions, right? You fire people. What do you do?
Right.
Like, and a lot of good companies have always come to that point where they've almost failed. And that's a really difficult thing to kind of navigate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is my
your laundry's done?
Yeah, my laundry is done.
Yeah, I think the guy was probably calculated at it. He was probably, was it poker? He's probably an excellent poker player.
Yeah.
And he was like,
I think it was blackjack.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's what it was.
It's blackjack.
And, he probably had who knows what his mindset was. He probably has described it somewhere.
Yeah.
And but he was like, fuck it, this is the last 5K, 24.
Right.
This is the last Hail Mary. We're going to go do this.
Yeah.
And fucking worked out for him.
Yeah, it did work out for him. It is interesting, those kinds of things. In running a business, you got to take risks. You got to make hard decisions. And at that time, he thought maybe that was his Hail Mary.
It was his Hail Mary. Well, yeah. Who knows? He probably had like four other Hail Marys after that too.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
because it's not just one. It's usually like,
Yeah.
I know for Sawtooth, it's like one challenge after the next, the next, and it's just like, fuck.
Yeah.
And it's shit you didn't even think of.
Right.
You know,
right.
you're like, fuck me.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear your comments of, you know, if you have a small business, what types of hard decisions if you had to make when falling upon hard times, what types of things did you have to do? I think it's always interesting to see, you know, what other people have gone through.
Right.
And then going back to what we were talking to previously in relationships, kind of want to get you guys' take on that. Some kind of the unique problems that men and women face in having a relationship, and maybe some of your own personal experiences, because I think that stuff's interesting to get people's take on things.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, getting people's input would be great. And maybe some topics or things that you guys want to hear and want us to talk about.
Or if you want to come on the show and actually talk with us, we could even set it up if it's remote, you know?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. But want to just do a short one today?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think we'll call it. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Cool.
Peace.
Thanks, guys.